Oh, that's it. That's a lot better. We had you on speaker. Packie, how are you doing? How's lockdown been for yourself and your family this last 12, 13, 14 weeks?
I'm okay. We're stuck in the house, obviously, as everybody knows, and everybody's fine health-wise. Just, I suppose, not being able to get out and not being able to get Donegal, which is worse still.
Oh, definitely.
Which is the biggest issue. But no, I'm working. I'm doing bits and pieces for UF and different things, and going all day into the BBC and at the weekend to talk nonsense as usual. But overall, it was that's okay. I've enjoyed actually being around the house a little bit more rather than travelling a lot, which I used to do. So no, everything's okay. And it's been a tough time for everybody concerned, and mad times really. But I suppose puts everything into perspective a little bit, and we have to be kind of thinking about maybe reflecting on things, which is a wee bit different than when we're running around mad,
Yeah, that's the reason why we started this Celtic show during lockdown. We were getting those Celtic football. Then the next thing, you all started jumping on board, you guys to come on and just speak to Celtic supporters and just give them that wee bit of a buzz that the need just to get them through.
Am I speaking to the supporters right now, or?
Yes, we've something
like. Good to see you guys and talk to you all and everybody. I'm sure there's a nice mix of people there now. So delighted to be able to talk to you and come on. Absolutely.
Oh, brilliant, Packie. There's around about 7,000 listening now. Then we'll put it on a podcast later. So it's brilliant. We're right across Celtic sites, right across Facebook. So Packie, you don't mind, we'll go through your career, how you started in Donegal. You were born on the 24th of May, 1960. You were the first out of two. You and Dennis came into the world back then. And of course, growing up in Donegal, a nice secluded part of Ireland, it must have been a brilliant childhood for yourself to come up.
It was. Listen, it's right out in the northwest. I'm sure there's lots of people listening in know it very, very well. And we used to come up on holidays up there. A lot of people from in and around the Ramsonstown and Dunmurry and all over Belfast and Northern Ireland. And we were lucky that my mum and dad, moved back from Glasgow. They were actually married in Edinburgh.
Right, didn't know that.
My mum was working over in Edinburgh, and my dad went and followed her over, and they got married there. And then, he moved back to look after my grandmother, and that's hence we were all born in Donegal, but we could easily have been born in Scotland.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it was interesting, but what happened then, as we were young, there was 10 of us in the house, grandmother and mum and dad, and 7 of us, and then myself and Dennis, twin brothers, and we were self-sufficient out in the northwest. You had to work hard, and there was a lot of jobs to be done around the house, coming from school, and we grew our own potatoes, and we did the hay, and we had animals, and we did all of those things. Which, when I look back on it, cut turf up and brought them home, and all of those things. That was a great upbringing, and some people probably wouldn't have gone through that coming from a city background, but we were in the country. We had to be self-sufficient, and then we had football. We played both Gaelic and soccer.
You done it at a high level too, didn't you, with the Gaelic?
Yeah, we were lucky. We played Ross's Rovers, which is our club team, and then both myself and Dennis, we got into the Donegal team around about the age of 17. We played minor football. In fact, the year that I got in, I think I played minor, under 21 and senior all in the 1 year, which is, although the senior team were down in I think it was the 3rd division at the time, and we played about 5 or 6 games and that, and then I left to go away, and that. I never won anything in Gaelic, and that. But soccer was the main sport, to be honest. We had a big influence because of Glasgow, because of KG Rovers, my local team, and that was probably I wouldn't say our first love, but it was the natural thing to do, is to try to play for KG. In the evenings when we went home, and especially during the latter time, the days were a little bit later. We'd all end up over in KG, and you'd be mixed in. You'd be playing with the senior guys, and it was a great time. Maybe 40 people over, playing over in KG Rovers over on the old pitch, maybe out on the beach also, and that. So all of those things that sort of give us the passion for football. And then having a twin brother would have helped because you could go out and play with him a little bit. And Dennis went on to play League of Ireland football too with Finn Harps and Galway and Sligo and so as a centre half. So he had a good career in soccer too.
Yeah. You went to Finn Harps after KG Rovers. You see, you spent a good load of times there, and of course a wee move came to Finn Harps, but it came with a little agreement between you and Busty Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. And Busty obviously was the manager of Finn Harps, and you know I played those couple of games for Harps, played against Stoke City and played against, I think it was Ballymena. I think we might have played in a pre-season friendly. And the incredible thing playing against Stoke City was that Peter Shilton was in goals. You know, Terry
He's a hero of mine too.
Jared Crooks, those kind of people. And I was only 16 years old, and I'd been over and back to Leicester City on trial. You know, a great man, Jim O'Hay from Derry, who was a scout for Leicester, and he brought me over, and I was over and back nearly a full season, and played in the Youth Cup and so on, but nothing came of it. And then Finn Harps, I played those couple of trial games, and you know, Busty asked me to sign for Finn Harps, and I did sign the contract, and it was quite incredible. You know, I did say to him, I said, listen, if somebody comes in for me in the next 6 months, a senior club, you know, going abroad or going over to England or Scotland or whatever, would you tear up the contract? And to be honest, when I said with Celtic, he was true to his word. And
what a guy! You wouldn't get that in modern football.
Him,
yeah,
you know, which was incredible, and he took it out of his drawer, and that there was in his house, and tore it up in front of her. And not many managers would have done that, and not many guys, considering there might have been a bit of money involved too from Celtic and that. So I owe a lot to Busty, God rest his soul. He's gone now, but he was a great man, lovely man actually.
Yeah, a legend of he's talking a legendary status within Irish football. But of course, with Busty, after that came up that it was Sean Fallon who had a wee eye on you.
Yeah, Sean, what a man, what a lovely man.
Jesus, he was a beautiful person.
We all know how he's a legend in the history of Celtic, but he was the chief scout at the time. He had kind of stayed on the Celtic, and I think it was, I'm trying to think who came in as assistant manager. Dave McParland, I think it was in helping Jock at the time. So right, Sean took the role of chief scout, and he came over to Dublin, and he was watching some of the Irish youth team games which I was in, and that's where he spotted me. And then it was him really that instigated, you know, the signing and for me to be over in trial and that. But Sean was Superman. He left, of course, himself and Jock Stephen left Celtic very quickly after I went over full time. But I kept in touch with Sean. I kept in touch with his family, and they were brilliant to me, and they used to invite me down to the house for dinner. And Sean had just he had a lovely way with him, a lovely kind of a fatherly figure, and you know, when you were in his company, you really knew that you were in among a man that had great morals and great values, and of course he loved Ireland, he loved Sligo, he loved that connection with Ireland, and you know, the Celtic thing never left, and that's what I loved about Sean. Yeah. You know, the Celtic thing, even though he left Celtic maybe under a bit of a cloud himself, and dropped, when you think back on it, guys who had done so well, but when he left, he never talked them down. But he always kind of talked them up, which was a great way.
That was classy about him. You know?
I love Sean for that reason, you know.
Yeah, we know the club treated a lot of players very poorly, and management in the end. But it came the 14th May 1978 in a hotel up in Donegal. Yourself, your very proud parents, and Jack Steen, along with Sean Fallon, are sitting in a hotel just ready to sign you up for Celtic. That's just the stuff made of dreams. That's Roy of the Rover stuff, isn't it, Packie?
It is. You know, I'd been over and been on trial twice. I went over in November '77, and you know, when I think back in it now, a young raw boy out of Donegal, coming from, you know, really out in the northwest of Donegal, to go over there and you know, going. And at the time I went over, things were there was a big freeze on. The snow was unbelievable, and I hadn't really had the opportunity to maybe go out and train and do all of that type of stuff. But I played in one game, and I played a game, and it was probably the first game I ever played in Scotland was for a team called Colton United. It was a junior team, and we played against East Kilbride Fetzel. I was in there as an unassumed name goalkeeper, and
Right.
Frank Connor came out to watch me play, and did okay. You know, I was nothing fantastic, but I played, and Frank must have seen something. And Frank Connor is another great man in the history of Celtic, the history of me also, because he was in charge of reserves, and I was just sending a video to him the other day because him and his wife Margaret was 60 years married, which was fantastic.
Excellent.
He was a lovely man.
Do you know, funny enough, what you say, Packie, every player that we have had on here has just talked in the highest terms of Frank Connor. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And he played for Derry City and Portadown in the Irish League
He
too.
did.
Yeah. He's a great fella. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, but listen, he had an influence because of obviously being an ex-goalkeeper and all of that type of stuff, you know. So he had seen something in me, and then I went back to school up in Dunlow, and then I came back at Easter again. I went on a trip out to a place called Ruby in France with the under-18. It was a great trip because, you know, there was lads on there. George McCluskey's brother John was an unbelievable. I don't know if the Celtic fans know the history about. They know everything about George, of course, who was a great player. But John, his younger brother, he was a brilliant player. And I remember he had a clot in his leg at the time, and that's what actually stopped him from, you know, signing pro and becoming a star. To be honest, he had to give up the game, which was really unfortunate. But John got player of the tournament, and then we had, you know, other reserve players like Bernie Godzik and Peter Mackey and Jim Casey and, you know, guys out there. So I was travelling out with these John Weir. I was travelling out to France, and again I didn't do very well in the tournament. I thought that was going to be the end of it. You know, I was going to go back to school and get my exams, and then suddenly I got the word through Sean Fallon had phoned Manus McCall, our manager. And for anybody who doesn't know Cage Rovers, I'm sure some of them out there do know what Cage Rovers is. Our manager there, Manus McCall, who was there all my time there and started up, Manus was an incredible man because he was born with no legs. He was born with no legs, but he was our manager of the team. And it was him to give us the opportunity to play football, you know. And when you think about, there's somebody, he drove a taxi, he was disabled, but he had a love for football and a love for young people from that area to give them the opportunity. So he was the one that did it. So when the call came into Manus, we ended up then, myself and my mum and dad went out to the Ballyrain Hotel, and we knew that there was a signing, they wanted to sign us, but I don't think we knew and thought that Jock Steen would come over, all the way over from Glasgow to Letterkenny. He arrived in the hotel with Fran Fields, who was the chairman of Finn Harps. And that's another story, to be perfectly honest, because Fran had ended up organising the game years later that I only found this out at that moment in time.
All right.
That he would get his payday, and Cage Rovers did very little out of it.
Oh, no, that's not right, is it?
To this day, I feel ashamed and that. But I was too young then to even think about negotiating for Cage. They were there in the room. They should have negotiated themselves. I was the young lad, just desperate to sign. And comes Jock Steen into the room with that sort of the limp at that time, and what a character, a presence to walk into the room, and it was incredible to think that. And you know, an incredible thing, and you know, I think I've said this many times before. Within a couple of weeks later, he was gone. He left the club, and he must have known at that point in time that he was leaving the club. So for him to even give up time, to even think about coming over to Donegal to sign a young player that was probably a big chance never making it, for him to do that, maybe he wanted to get away from Glasgow for a couple of days. I'm not too sure, but
get his head cleared up
I
in
own
Donegal.
something very special.
Yeah. That's just an amazing story, isn't it? Like Jock going out of his way to come to Donegal to sign a young lad like yourself. It must have been respect for Sean Fallon, respect for the country, respecting bringing a young Irishman over to Celtic because, as you well know, with the history of the club, it's essential that we do have Irish blood in it. And Donegal is so entrained with Celtic. You always have to have
and
somebody
of course,
like
listen, everybody knows that, and it's a bit like Belfast, a bit like Northern Ireland, the guys in Derry and all over Coal Island and everywhere that, you know, they've got Celtic supporters clubs, but it has that connection with Donegal. Like, you know, as I said to you, my mum and dad went to Scotland to work. My next door neighbour went to Scotland to work. My godfather, and you know, we grew up in Donegal without really seeing Celtic live. But the mystique was there, you know, the green and white jersey. You know, I could name all the Elizabeth Lions almost from a big photograph that was in the house of my next door neighbour. You know, they were all there, so I could name them, and people kept coming over back and giving you that history. The unfortunate thing is we didn't see them because TV at that time didn't show Celtic games. The first Celtic game, I think I said, the first Celtic game that I watched live.
Yeah, I'll be interested in this.
Was that year before. The year before, probably Cup final. The year before, when Andy Lynch scored, and that was the first real Celtic game on TV over in Ireland that we watched, and it was incredible. It was the year before I signed.
Yeah, it would have been the 77 Cup final. Andy Lynch, I think it was a penalty he put away that year. So you get signed up on the 14th of May 1978. 10 months later, you made your debut. That's just amazing for somebody brought over. And you made your debut on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Against Motherwell.
These things happen to me somehow, you know, these special days. And it was incredible to think that, first and foremost, that I would be making a debut at all. You know, coming from junior football back at home in Keju, you know, in September, I think it was around about September, they sold Roy Baines to Morton, and Peter Latchford was a goalkeeper. So right away I was second choice, and I was playing and training with the team every single day, because at that time there was no youth teams, there was just reserves in the first team. And of course, they always wanted two goalkeepers with the first team because they would be probably playing it. And we all mixed in together a lot of the time anyway and trained. So I was second choice and at that point. And then Peter, I think it went through maybe a difficult couple of weeks or something. And suddenly Billy Neal, you know, came to me and said that I was making my debut on St. Patrick's Day. It's really hard to fathom that one out. I don't know whether that was luck or it was designed, but I would take it any day.
It just sounds beautiful. Like, you know what I mean? It's St. Patrick's Day, young lad from Donegal. You have Caesar, the probably greatest Celt of all time, the most iconic Celt of all time, putting you in goal for your debut, and actually going on to win the debut.
Bobby Lennox played. Bobby scored 2 goals in that particular day against Motherwell, and I think Billy probably, and you know, he wanted maybe to make the change, but I think he also was very kind of thinking about the day that was in it. You know, it was in midweek. I think I'm really sure it fell on a Tuesday. I'm not 100% sure now, but it fell in the weather wasn't great. There was a lot of snow around the pitch and so on too. The other incredible thing that, and I think I articulated this when I wrote about it, was that I couldn't get, because Billy had told me on the day before, and there was a postal strike on and a telecommunications strike on. And at that time there was no mobile phones, as we all know. I don't think we even had the phone in the house in Donegal. So I couldn't even get in touch with my parents to tell them that I was actually making my debut. So nobody really kind of knew that much until they got the papers. I think some of the guys at home would have tuned into Radio Scotland and that and so on, and they kind of knew that way a little bit. But overall, there wasn't a lot of people knew that I was making my debut.
Isn't that just amazing?
Which was,
I would have went out and hijacked a pigeon and put a message to it and threw it to get the Donegal, let the parents know.
Yeah.
Would have been a good thing. But on that season that you made your debut was probably one of the greatest seasons. Any other season you would have probably got a league medal because you were part of the squad, which the modern day game goes. But that is the season that the 10 men won the league. Were you there that day on the bench?
I know, and it was incredible. I played that particular game, and then Peter came back in again, and then Billy again played me I think probably about 10 days later out in Motherwell against Motherwell again, and I didn't have a good game, but it kind of coincided with my grandmother dying at home and so on. I didn't get home for the funeral and was a wee bit, but that wasn't an excuse. I never liked playing at Motherwell pitch. It was a horrible place to play because at that time the pitch sloped both from right to left across the pitch and from the top end downwards, so it was a really difficult pitch to play on. But then I didn't do so well, so he left me out and put Peter back in. But that actually did correspond. And I was just sitting up in the stand when Celtic beat Rangers that particular night, and it was an incredible atmosphere. But I wasn't really part of this. While I trained with him, I didn't really feel that I was part of the squad or felt that I justified being even in and around about the dressing room when the boys were celebrating, because I was only a young boy at the time, you know.
Yeah, I was trying to hook out a few photographs from around about then, and I was trying to find one with you in it, and I couldn't find any.
No, I kind of stayed out. I think I stayed out of it. I think the feeling I had is that, you know, I didn't deserve to be in there. You know, I was in the reserves, and I played in the reserves, and even though I trained with the first team, I didn't deserve to be in around that. That was a special group of players, and you know, when you look back in the big Shuggy Valson and Roddy McDonald and those guys who was to leave the club very quickly after that. But those were the ones that deserved. Vic Davison was part of it when I was there. Names of the past that maybe a lot of the younger generation might know too much about, but certainly they were the heroes that particular night.
Yeah, and the big change came August 1980. It was Danny's testimonial, Danny McGrain's. It's Manchester United.
Danny's testimonial. And to be honest, I was very lucky again in that instance because, you know, everybody I think also knows that Peter Latchford got injured. He broke a bone in his hand up in training. I wasn't due to play, and I wasn't I wasn't even up at training that particular day for some reason. They might have just been doing a short training session before the game on the following, on Danny's testimonial. And suddenly I got the word to say that Peter had to go to hospital and get a stookie in his hands. So suddenly I was in, and I'm not even sure that he got another goalkeeper in around that particular period. I'm even trying to think back, was there another goalkeeper brought in? I don't think there was. I think I was on my own. But so Billy was kind of almost forced to put me in. And it was great because I knew that I was going to get a little run in the team. I was going to get maybe at least 4 or 5 weeks that I was had to play before Peter was back. So that gave me an opportunity just to relax and get in. And as soon as I got in and started playing, then it was kind of, I started doing well, and I stayed in. I stayed in for that. And that year we won the league, and the year after we won the league. And I think when you feel you're really part of it. You know, you really do feel that when you won something for Celtic, especially the first league, the first trophy, then you feel that you've come of age. And I was lucky. The luck went my way, but you have to take I suppose you have to take the luck too a little bit.
Of course.
In that. But Peter, I've got to say, Peter Latchford was brilliant. You know,
I loved him. Absolutely loved him.
There's a lot of guys like Peter, Tom McAdam, those guys that maybe never got enough recognition. Certainly from a point of view financially, they didn't get testimonials, but Peter was around the club for a long time.
He was indeed.
And he had achieved things. He won leagues and cups, and that. But what he was to me was fantastic. He was like a coach. He was like he backed me up in every way, and helped me. He was older than me, but helped me. Himself and Frank Connor that particular time was sensational as goalkeepers.
Brilliant. And I absolutely love Peter Latchford myself, and when you had deposed him, and I remember I was only 10 years old at the time, at the Peter Latchford shirt, you know, the old Celtic shirt, and when he was deposed, I got very, very annoyed. My daddy says, "Relax, son, don't worry, the new keeper's from Donegal." And I went, "Oh, superb." And at Christmas that year, I got the brand new Celtic goalkeeper's jersey, and I still have it.
What colour was it?
I got a green one with black stripes on it.
Yeah.
I still have it. I still have it upstairs. I actually tried to get into the back of the attic today to get it out, to believe it or not. Absolutely love that shirt. My son's here, Declan's here, and he's a few wee questions for you, Packie.
Hey, Packie.
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Just asked you about, obviously with Celtic comes European football, and in 1982 we go away to Amsterdam to play Ajax, which probably had an amazing team at the time with Johan Cruyff and Lemlot, and the Supper coming away with a 2-1 win. What was your memories of that game?
Well, listen, that was an incredible. I remember the first leg actually at Parkhead, and we played. Ajax were a brilliant team. They had Lerby, they had Martin Olsen at the back, they had Jesper Olsen, they had Mjalby, was a young man in the team. They were a brilliant group of young players, and Johan Cruyff had come back to help them out that particular year. And the first game at Celtic Park, they absolutely hammered us, and we got away with it. We got a draw. I don't know how we got away with it. I think Danny McGrain's quoted as saying that was the biggest runaround that he ever got from Jesper Olsen, and that was Danny in his latter days. But then going out to Amsterdam was, I felt that we had a chance. They played actually. They didn't play in their normal stadium. They played in the Olympic Stadium, which was probably because of crowd and so on and so forth. But I remember being out with Charlie Nicholas the night before, and we were doing some shooting practice at the end of training and that, and there was a slope on the pitch and from the goal coming back down, and I actually had time with a goalkeeper that was quite a heavy set goalkeeper and a very good goalkeeper, but he was heavy, so he wasn't the biggest. And I remember saying to Charlie coming off the pitch, I said, Charlie, if the goalkeeper strays off his line, there's a chance that you could think run over the top of him, And when I look back in the game, that's exactly what happened. That's what Charlie did, scoring a goal. And then it was kind of almost backs to the wall. They had scored then, kind of at the flex, not a great goal, but I had played very well. And one of the other interesting things for me, I don't think I made my debut for Ireland at the time, and I might have made the debut, but I wasn't getting in the team. And Owen Hand, who was the manager of Limerick, we were playing in Europe the night before in Holland, and he came along to the game that particular night and had watched me play. So I don't know whether that cheated me up a little bit or whatever, but it was one of them nights where I really enjoyed the game. I'd be making saves and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we get that lucky goal from I think it was a shot by Danny and deflected into the net. And we really shouldn't have won the game. But listen, I will take it. I remember that afterwards we stayed over and Big Billy was, let's say he had a few too many in him. But I enjoyed it. And I remember Brian McGavin tells a great story about himself and Peter Latchford having to carry him up to bed. And Frank says that Peter's contract was up that particular year, and Frank says that he had took Billy to bed and they had taken his clothes off, and he was just going out the door, and Big Peter turned back to do something, and Frank stood out to the door, and he says, Big Peter was saying, "Hey boss, what about that new contract? Oh, Jesus. And Big Billy, I don't know, he didn't get a new contract out of it, but I don't know whether Billy was conscious even to remember him saying it, But it was a brilliant night, and it was great for Billy too, because, European football, he was brought up in it, he was the master, he was the guy who lifted the European Cup, and as a manager now, he achieved something by beating a really good Ajax team. Unfortunately, I think the next round we went out against Real Sociedad, and a team that we really should have beaten. And the next round. And that, to be honest, guys, European football, I keep saying it, a lot. Our history is there with European football because we won the European Cup, got to a final, got to another final with Martin O'Neill, and all of these things mattered for our club. They're not. It's not. You win the domestic league to play in Europe, but European competition is where. And one of my biggest regrets, and I think most of us, I talked to Tommy and God rest him, and Roy and those kind of guys that were around during the brilliant '80s when we were going so well, and we had some great teams in the '80s. Our biggest regret was we never really done something in Europe. Missed out against Rapid Vienna
It's small margins every time, Packie. You know what I mean? It's these small margins that knock you out of Europe. The likes of the bottle throwing incident, and you know what I mean, we were through that night. I think if anything goes wrong for us in Europe, we get it 10 times worse. You know what I mean? If the little mistakes, we pay over the odds for little mistakes in Celtic, and just a pity about that. But going through the Billy McNeil years, by the time Billy left in 1983, you had 2 titles under your belt and all. Was it hard when you seen Billy walk away? I think Billy went down from Man City that time.
Yeah, I think it was. I think we were all pretty shocked, to be honest. And you know, because Billy had given me my debut. He was, you know, a big man in the club. He gave a lot of the young players, you know, people around about me, their debuts also, and he was good for us. While he was a difficult man at times, because he was a strong manager. He kind of managed it a bit like what Jock Stein did. He was hard on the players and he wouldn't let you off. But he made us what we were because he knew what Celtic was about, and that. So when he left, we were kind of a little bit in shock, and we didn't know what's going to happen next. That was the problem.
Yeah.
He was going to take over and so on, and then Davy Hay comes in, which was great. I love Davy. I must admit that.
I was going to ask your opinion on Davy.
But yeah, well, Billy was hard. You know, he would challenge you. He would test you. He made you become a leader. And it's only when you know I got older that I realised what Billy was trying to do with us. You know, put us under that bit of pressure. Davy comes in, he's younger, he's very much was a quiet man. He wasn't as out there as Billy was. He stood back a little bit, but he was like the silent assassin as a player, and he was, I think, the same when he was
for Quality Street
manager. You know, he took no nonsense. But when we had fun, we enjoyed it under Davy much more because he was younger. We could relate a wee bit better to him. When we were out and about, you know, and we had some great trips abroad and different things. And
I've heard some good stories about Davy Hay in the past. But here, the big moment came. The big moment came, and I think Declan wants to jump in with this because although he was never born well before this, he just loves the story of the season of 1985 and the 86. I'm even wearing the shirt beneath as well, Packie, the lime green one with the C.R. Smith on the front of it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing it in your honour, and Declan's wearing the 1987 Ireland jersey, so we're wearing them in your honour this evening. But he's got a wee question on Love Street, go on for it.
Just with the Love Street game, obviously we headed it, and Hearts are going for basically an invincible season, and they go up to Dundee. We just thought in your head, just do our job and hope that Dundee do the best. And what was your reaction when you saw the Celtic crew start bursting about? Obviously you knew something was happening at Dens Park.
Yeah, you know, when we talk about history and talk about Celtic, you know, there is times and moments and things like that you know, and that is unique to the club. I don't think any other club probably would get those type of days, and this was one of them. You know, when you're in a situation where, you know, we had to win the game and win it well, but you were relying on somebody else to do you a favour. And let's face it, you're relying on Dundee to beat Hearts, who are going to win the championship. And everybody knows the story around it, obviously what happened. But we're down in Love Street. We play out of our skin, by the way. We play as well that particular day as we've done at any time that I was at the club. We scored fantastic goals. We just ripped St Mirren apart, and that's another situation. You know, I always believe that, you know, no matter what the circumstances is, whether you're not going to win a title or you're going to win a title or whatever, you've got to go out and play 100% for Celtic in the fans. They don't allow you to play any other way, and that's what we did. Not thinking that maybe Dundee would have pulled it off, but when he did, what an atmosphere! I remember in the goal and
amazing.
listening to the crowd and hearing, you know, a cheer would go up and then nothing, and then this unbelievable reaction around the stadium. I remember Jim Stewart, who I know quite well now because he does a bit of work with me with UEFA, but Jim, ex-Rangers goalkeeper, of course, and been in the St Mirren goal, and him going behind the goal to pick up the ball, and this almighty noise went up, and he almost stopped, and you know, he talks about it now. He said, I didn't know what was going on. I got a free fright, and then we knew that something miraculous was going to happen, and then the second goal. You know, I remember my father-in-law running onto the pitch and almost taking the car off me, saying, "Where's the keys? I'll go home and get the kids." And we what a party we had that night. Just because, you know, to win a league is one thing, but to win a league in those circumstances and on the last day of the season is like a cup final. It's like something that you could never dream of. So, and I was glad for Davy too, because Davy was under a bit of pressure up.
He was indeed, yeah.
And every manager at that time, you know, you had to win something. That was the problem with Celtic. You had to win a cup, you had to win a league, and so on. Yeah, but to win a league for Davy was
yeah, and he also won the 100th cup final, so we'll give that to Davy as well. You don't mind when you said your father-in-law had run on with give me the car keys to the car. Of course, with you finding love in Glasgow, of course, we've all been through it as well. You know what I mean? When the girlfriend says, "Come round and meet the parents," and it says, when it comes to yourself, Packie, when you come round to meet the parents, for all the wrong reasons, you would get a gold medal for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, listen, you know, I think most people know the story now, but I was kind of going out. There was a friend up the road, actually, John DePaulo. He was a great guy, good Celtic guy, and he was the same age. And John we used to go out the odd time, but not that much, because at that time when I was staying with my aunt and Sims Hill in Glasgow, and you know, you weren't kind of allowed to go out too much. You know, the parents had probably told her and my uncle to say, "Watch that fella now, don't be letting him go anywhere too far." Not like McAvenny and them fellas, you know.
Oh yeah, I know all about that.
But I anyway, we were out this late night, and I bumped into a group that John knew, and my wife now, Anne, was part of the group, and then we had a couple of other nights, and then eventually I went after her out. Now, to be honest, I didn't know anything about her too much, about where she went to school or what religion she was or all that. But she had to tell her dad, and her dad, as most people know now, was a Rangers supporter, and he was in she had to tell her dad that day. She was 18 years old, so she had to tell her dad there was 3 girls in the family, and she said to her dad that she was going out that night with somebody. He was kind of wondering what's going on here. Who's this guy, and what's his name? And she called me Pat, and then no. So, and then the next question was, what did he do? He was a footballer, and he was happy with that, because of course having a professional footballer. Oh yeah, professional football coming into the house was, for him, it was great, because there were no boys in the family. And then the big question, as our mother says, you haven't heard the worst of it yet. Who did he play for? Celtic, you know. So anyway, you know, when I arrived down and rang the bell and eventually into the living room to meet him, and he was sitting in the room with his Rangers scarf on and the programmes lying all over the floor. And to be honest, it was good, because it broke the ice, you know.
Did you not bring your championship medals around?
Well, that's exactly, you know. And I was good. If I knew the story, I certainly would have brought a few Celtic things with me. But you know, everybody else knows now what happened, and
that's a great story.
He was going up to Ibrox, and you know, I'd been playing, and he'd be up in the stand, and he'd give me stick, the usual thing, you know, the big Irish this and that, and so on and so forth. And I'm trying to stand up for me, you know, without being able to tell them that I was there with his daughter, and eventually we were to get married. But my dad died then, and that was a remarkable thing about it. My dad died, and when I came back today, when I arrived back in Glasgow, and I went into the house, and he brought me into the other room, and you know, it was quite an emotional one for me, you know. And he said to me that, listen, that's it. He said, I'm not going back to Ibrox. I'm going up to Celtic Park now to support you and look after you a little bit if you want. And that was him from that day on. He went, and so my thing always, you know, and I say this to people, was my real job when I went to Glasgow was not really to play for Celtic, but to change the Rangers supporters into Celtic supporters.
And you've done it. And you've done it brilliantly.
I did it with him, but he was that kind of neutral fan. But he travelled the world watching Ireland, and you know, and he had a great time. And you know, I wish I was my dad, to be perfectly honest. But
of course.
Tommy, and you know, the other thing with that, you know, is people know the history, and people know what sacrifice that is in many ways, and you know, mixed marriages and everything that goes with it. And you know, Tommy had a brother-in-law, and he had one sister, and the brother-in-law, who was a big Rangers fan, very fanatical Rangers fan, never spoke to Tommy for years after, you know, which was, and married to his only sister, you know. So that they're the things that happen in families, you know. But I think nowadays it's slightly different. So, but I owe a lot to Tommy. He was good to me, and he came and supported me when I was going through all that period, and so not everybody would do it, to be perfectly honest.
And you're a bigger man for it, Packie, all the way. Of course, Davy Hay, Tenure was done 1987. In comes back is the big man, Caesar's back, and it's centenary year. My God, what pressure. We were in disarray, really were. Players were going out the door, and to be honest, as a supporter then, I was starting to understand how football and all worked. I was 19 years of age, travelling over. I was going, this is going to be an awful season. I just could not see a way out of that season. Us probably winning the league, and you need to produce in a centenary year, don't you, Packie?
Yeah. Well, listen, we needed something, to be honest, but. You know, again, I was sorry to see Davy Hay go, because he was a good friend and still is a very, very good friend to me and Anne, and he lives up beside us here and so on. But I think change really had to happen, and we needed somebody who was going to really lift the club, and no better man than Billy McNeil coming back. Tommy Craig was there, but Billy walked. As soon as we walked in for pre-season, you know, you could feel the atmosphere different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I met him in the corridor, and his chest was out, and you know, and he was back, and he just lifted the whole place, and you know, Celtic Football Club need those type of leaders, you know, and he was fantastic. Billy was a manager of people. Billy was a leader. Billy was a guy who, you know, would tell you straight what needed to be said, then pick you up. And I think when he came in the second time, I felt he was a little bit mellowed. He had the experience down in England, which wasn't a great experience probably for him as a manager. He'll admit that himself. While it was an experience, it wasn't the best. It wasn't like what it was at Celtic, and that's always the danger when you go away from Celtic. The grass is always greener. But he would come back into the club that he was brought up in. Felt that he had a duty to come in and lift the place, but I think he certainly with the players that he knew from the past, I think he was a different type of man to us, and I think we got on probably a lot better. We respected each other. He didn't come in now thinking you were a young boy. He came in now as an experienced player, and I think he related much better to the players that was there at the time. You know, Tommy and Roy and myself and. You know, all of it. But he knew what he was coming to do.
Yeah, his four signings that year, Packie, were amazing, weren't they? The likes of Mark McGee, Billy Stark, bringing in Big Mick,
he signed
Frank
good players
McAvaney.
too. You know, that was the thing too.
Joe
Mark
Miller,
McGee
forgot about
already,
Joe.
I think maybe there. Mick McCarthy had just signed, but then he got in McAvaney at the right time. You know, Joe Miller came in.
Yeah,
those were a couple of nuggets that
standard.
helped the rest. With Granty was there, Paul McStay was there. You got through the team, and I'll tell you what, he brought in Chris Morris and young Anton, who is a brilliant guy, Anton Rogan. And I was just, of course, he helped set this up here tonight, and
He did indeed.
you know, we speak, and Anton was not just a footballer, but he was a good, very, very good friend. And I remember, you know, I think I was talking the other night when we were setting this up. The first time that Anton, he set my eyes on Anton was I was over in Belfast doing a Celtic supporters thing, and one of the guys said to me, "This young fella's coming over. He's signing with you. playing with Distillery, but he's going to go and sign with you guys. Would you meet him tonight? And I said, yeah, delighted to meet him, bring him in. And he came in halfway through the event, and he had an overall on. He was obviously a part-time painter and decorator at the time, and he came in. There was more paint on Anthony Rogan that particular night probably up on the wall, but he came straight into the thing with this painter's overall, and then 6 months later, whatever, he was over and signed with us, and he was brilliant. And when you go through the team, that year, that centenary year, we didn't score 6-7 goals every game. There was loads of games where we actually won 1-0, maybe 2-1 or whatever. Maybe scored later in the game.
Yeah,
but the energy that Anton and Chris Morris, especially as fullbacks, up and down that wing, they were fit. They had real energy, and they brought that into the team. And then when you have the likes of Paul McStay in your team, you have Tommy Burns in your team, you have Roy charging from the back, you have the likes of Frank and Mark McGee and Andy Walker and those guys up front putting the ball in the back of the net when we needed it.
Yeah.
But it was the hard work of the team that really won us the league that year. And it was like as if Billy came in. He was the director. We had a play that you were a drama that you were actually had to. We were the actors, and then you had the audience with the fans, and you had to go out and sort of almost play it out. If you know what I mean. And that's what it was like. It was like if it was destiny for us to go and win the double that particular year.
Yeah. You had a bit of bad luck getting into the cup final that year. With the league wrapped up, we were in about 4 games to go, and it came. You were struggling a wee bit, and we had, of course, the Euros in Germany just around the corner as well.
I was struggling. I had a back injury, and I didn't know what it was. I was. Brian Scott and took me to see some specialists during the year, and they had told me that it was ankylosing spondylitis, a kind of a arthritic thing that there's no real cure for, and that I had just had to maintain it and do maintenance work and that. But really, I was. Alan McKnight, of course, was the backup goalkeeper, another lad from the north, which was great. And on the day of the cup final, in fact, it was a Tuesday before the cup final. I got this almost like a cramp in the back of my leg, and I was having pain down the side of my leg coming from my back, my sciatic nerve, but in my calf. And I went up the train, and my calf just absolutely seized up. I couldn't even get up on. It was like a ball. It was like all I can describe it was like a knot that was in my calf, and Scotty worked on it over for 2 or 3 days. And when I went down to Seamill, where we stayed overnight before the cup final, I went out in the morning for a fitness test, and it was still there, and I couldn't get up on my toes. And we had decided that I wasn't going to take a chance on it because I wasn't going to let the team down. This was such a massive game, cup final, double winning team centenary year, that there's no way that I'm going to be selfish and go out there and try something that was. But I was heartbroken. I must admit. I sat down in the wall down in Seamill. If anybody has been over to Seamill Hydro, there's a little wall in the back of the garden, and then the seas down there. And after the fitness, and I sat there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and probably had a few tears, and just couldn't believe that I was going to miss the cup final, and that.
Centenary year too.
We won it, and it was another special day for us.
Yeah, and Packie, you never.
I went away then to the European Championships after that with Ireland, and played in them, and got on fine against England, great, against Russia, great, and then I got this niggle again in my back before we played Holland, and got through the Holland game, but when I came back then I had a disc operation, and I was out for 6 months. So it was all the time. It was a disc problem rather than ankylosing spondylitis.
And the 88 centenary final, you never received a medal, did you, Packie?
Sorry, I missed that one.
Did you receive a medal for the 88 cup final? No, not the way it's done now.
Unfortunately, you didn't at that time. There was only medals for the guys who played.
Yeah, and you played every
the other
round.
thing that happened to me was I lost that medal obviously because I didn't play, but my 2 championship medals that I had, my first 2 championship medals, I got a house broken into, and I lost them also. They were stolen from the house.
Oh no!
And, I never replaced them, to be honest. I should have replaced them at the time, but I felt that replacing them wasn't the real thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so
I
I'm
didn't
down
know
2
that.
medals. So anybody out there that knows where my medals are, please get in touch.
Yeah, because they're so unique. You know what I mean? Nobody else should have these.
It's only when you retire and you get older, and especially when you get to my age of 60 years old.
Oh, it's gut wrenching.
The memories are there, but you just want something tangible that you give to the kids or give to the grandchild, you know.
Yeah. Well, Packie, I hope somewhere along the line these turn up and come back into your hands. Most definitely.
Yeah, I hope so. You know, I did put out a distress call before one time. I remember being up and playing against Shamrock Rovers in Dublin, and I think it was a pre-season game, and my bag was stolen out of the back of the crowd came on, the usual thing, and the bag was left in nice gloves. But I had rosary beads in it, and I think I might have had my old man's memorial card in it also in the bag for gloves. And I put a distress call out, and the bag was handed in with the rosary beads, and the rosary beads were broken, but they were handed in to a nunnery, I think it was. And,
right.
The nuns fixed the rosary beads and they were given back to me later on. So there you are.
Right, there is some goodness out there.
There is something good in it, yeah.
Packie, was the house broken into in Donegal or Glasgow?
Say it again?
Was the house broken into in Donegal?
No, here in Glasgow.
Oh, it's in Glasgow?
Yeah, I lost a few things down in Graydon's. Clock was there. I got that back, but I never got my medals back. I got a couple of reserve medals back, but not the main ones. Yeah.
Well, hopefully down the line, but you know what I mean, the distress calls out there, and if you know anything, folks, please get in touch anonymously. Right, so we're going to deal with, of course, you know what I mean, on the back of the disappointment of the Cup final of '88, just round the corner, our very first ever European Championships qualification to a major tournament. Everybody left this country from all parts, all the head to Germany, to watch, of course, Ireland take on the rest of Europe for the first time in their history in one of these tournaments. Our Declan's a few questions to ask on it, Packie, so I'll let him come in here.
Yeah,
no problem.
Just with the first one, probably the '88 Championship team was the first team that Ireland would say punch above their weight in international tournaments. And what was it like to work under Jack Charlton at the time, that he just drilled that into you, just be the underdog and just take them on?
Yeah, when you talk about, we talked about Billy being a leader. When you talk about leadership, there was nobody better than Jack. Jack treated us all like men. That was first and foremost. And you know, when Jack took over in 1986, I had only about 9 caps. Maybe Debbie in '81, but I had only amassed 9 caps for Ireland. Seamus McDonough was down at Everton, Bolton, so he was the guy in possession. And then, of course, Owen Hand left, and then comes Jack. So from that on, for the next 10 years, then Jack put me in the team. But I was 26 years old. You know, I wasn't a young boy. And the most of us, you know, if you talk about Nick, you think about the team and think about that time we beat Scotland in the qualifications for the European Championships. You know, I keep saying about this team. You know, and anybody out there, start writing down the team that played Scotland at Hampden. Some of you might know it. But it was a unique team. You know, and Jack put me in. I was 26 years old. That particular night against Scotland, we had right back. I'll leave the right back and I'll leave the left back, because they're 2 ones that people might not know. But we had Mick McCarthy and Kevin Bourne centre halves, and I'll come back to the left right back. We had Ray Houghton on the right hand side, played with Liverpool. Kevin played, of course, with Man United, and Mick was at Man City and came up to Celtic. Then you had midfield on the left hand side, we had Tony Galvin, who played for Tottenham. In the centre of midfield, we had Mark Lawrenson, played with Liverpool, and Liam Brady, who at that time had just left Juventus in Italy. Up front, we had John Aldridge, Liverpool, and we had Frank Staples, Manchester United. And the right back that particular night was Paul McGrath, Manchester United. And the left back that night was Ronnie Whelan, Liverpool. When you think about that collection of those players, and that didn't count Dave O'Leary, who played with Arsenal, or so on and so forth. Kevin Sheedy, there was, I don't know whether it was Liverpool or Everton at the particular time. So those were other players who were in the reserves at that. We had an incredible team, and Jack was the leader of us, and working with him, and the way that he talked to you. He didn't have to coach us too much, but he had to give us a way of playing. Did not put the ball at risk at the back too much, getting it forward a bit earlier, getting it into certain areas where the better players played, creating space for the midfield runners to run into. All of those, playing Paul McGrath in the middle of the pitch to later on to compensate for losing Mark Lawrence, and then getting him to drop in when needed. Really, really strong tactical information, but a group of players that was incredible. So all Jack had to do was really lead us, give us responsibility, and that's the one thing that I keep saying to people, and keep saying to even young managers now and so on. Give the players more responsibility. Everybody probably knows at this stage. I've said it so many times, but Jack said to me, we were down in Manchester doing training. In Old Trafford actually, and he said to me that you're in charge of everything defensively. You're in charge. Now I was 27, 28 years old then. Nobody ever said that to me before, that you're in charge. And I had to then work with Jerry Payton and come up with almost a plan of defensive formations for set pieces, for free kicks, for wide free kicks, for corner kicks, and so on and so forth. And I grew and grew within the team because of that responsibility, So Jack then, but what he did say to me, he says, if you get it wrong, you're answerable to me. So he always had that one there that, you do it, but make sure you do it right. And I love Jack. I just loved the way that he managed people and got on. He was a funny character too. He had a lot of
he had the northern humour there. He was just
great humour. Yeah, and that makes it too. You have to relax. And he used to take us away to do clay pigeon shooting, and he used to take us golfing, and he would stop at a pub on the way back from the games, and just things that good people, managers do. And the boys responded to that. Boys responded brilliantly to it,
I used to love which way.
I loved him for it, and he was 85 recently, and I think we were all we've made a little video for him, and he's got Alzheimer's at the moment. I think we all felt over the years that he had Alzheimer's from day one. He used to mix up team sheets and different things too. That was all part of it.
Yeah, he used to have.
I
remember the stories that he was used to on the pitch, and he used to call wee Charlie and all over and saying, "Who's that boy over there?" And he would go, "That's Andy Townsend." And they go, "Well, right, Andy, and come over here. This is what we want you to do." Go ahead.
I think that the greatest one when we were playing Wales down in Wales. And a friendly, and there was all snow and ice in the pitch, and I don't know if he was taking the game as serious as maybe he should have been, but certainly the team sheets come out, and at that particular time you had the surname was down first on the team sheet, and then the first name would be second, and he looked at the team sheet, and there was, the way that the Welsh guys have got these surnames, it's almost like first names, and there was this name up there, and Malcolm Allen, who the hell is Malcolm Allen? Alan Malcolm, Jack. Who? I don't even know him, he says. And Tony Castro put his hand up and said, Jack, he plays with Millwall and I played with him. He says he must be crap then. But that was the way, that was the humour he had, and he was brilliant that way,
Yeah, I used to love which way he used to deal with the press. He had his enemies within the Irish press especially, but his humour just overrid everything. He was a great man.
Absolutely. You know, I think because Jack almost said to me that you should be in an international job for 4 years and then leave.
Right.
He didn't take
that too well. Yeah.
10 years, He stayed on for 10 years. Because I think he was so appreciated in Ireland, and we were having success up to maybe the last couple of years when it didn't go so well, and the fact that we didn't qualify. But when you qualify for European Championships, and really get down to the last nitty-gritty when we could have even got a result against Holland, and the two teams that was in our group, Holland and USSR, end up in the final. We were there and we played brilliantly against them, beating England, of course, in that first game was incredible. And then to go on to a World Cup and really excel ourselves and get to a quarter final, that was incredible. And then qualify again for another World Cup. We missed out in the European Championships in '92, and that was a pity because we hadn't lost one game. We didn't lose one game.
That's right.
And the qualifying, England went through, and we drew with Poland, I think, away.
We're always thereabouts. And all the games.
So Jack had that fantastic. I remember going home to Donegal and talking to just next door neighbours, older people who never had any connection with really football and soccer, didn't even know it too much, but loved that period. And loved Jack Charlton, they would ask me about Jack Charlton, about him, and get stories, and that. And Jack had an incredible way of making an impact on people, even though they never met him. Maybe because of the clothes he wore, maybe because he looked like an Irishman.
Yeah,
maybe the way that he loved his fishing and all that.
And his Guinness. Yeah.
A normal person,
Yeah. Here, can I take you back to Stuttgart '88 for Declan? He wanted to ask you about one of the games, the England match, where you were probably one of the man of the matches that day.
Yeah, that's basically my question. How did you feel like you performed on the day, and what was the celebrations after when they beat England, obviously being our biggest rivals, of course?
Yeah. Listen, to go out and beat England in the very first championship that we qualified for in the very first game, we always felt we could beat England, though. Even though they were a decent team, they were a good team, but we felt that we could beat them. I remember you just talking about Jack, and I remember Jack coming back, and I think Brazil might have been in two, I don't forget then, but I remember Jack had watched England, and he felt that that we definitely could beat them. Definitely could beat them. And the players played against England and almost knew all the players, really knew the players, and they felt that they weren't superior to us in any way whatsoever. I was a wee bit different because I hadn't played too much against those players, but the rest of the group felt very, very strong. I don't know why I played as well as I did in the game. There was one of them lucky days of the game, everything was hitting my knees, my chest, coming off me, and when you get the goal, a goal up, although Ray scored a bit too early in the game for that, for us, and it was such a warm day. But I think the fans behind us, the whole atmosphere. And then as long as the game was going on and we're still in the lead, I couldn't see us getting beat. I think the big call from England's perspective was that they didn't play Glenn Hoddle in the game from the start. They left him out.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That was a big shock for us because he was the one who could open us up. We always felt that maybe Mick and Kevin at the back was a little bit sort of slower than maybe Gary Lineker, and that was always a big threat. But you needed somebody to pass the ball for Gary Lineker. That was what, especially through the middle, and that wasn't really happening. But as soon as Glenn Hoddle came on in the second half, then it really got dangerous. I had to step up and save a few, which was my job. But
you've done it well.
Yeah, it was good. And Jack didn't give me much praise at the end of it all because he felt that I was too far off, not coming off my line, and he gave me loads of stick afterwards in the press conference.
And he didn't concede, and he's still complaining. Oh.
I was, yes. I remember, we had this thing that he would say, he says, you need to be out off your line, and he says, Mick and Kevin, they can't fucking turn, he says, they can't turn, they can't run, but you need to be the sweeper. And then he brought us out for a training session one day, and he says, "I'll show you." He says, and we had this kind of a relationship, you know,
right.
that I'd be arguing with him and he'd be arguing with me, you know, but he was trying to get his message across. And he put all the boys in the halfway line with a ball each. And he says, "Let stand out. Stand," he says, "outside the box. Stand in the arc, the little arc that's outside the box." He says, "That's where I want you to stand. And we'll see how they can chip it over your head." So the first sort of 10 balls, they were going wide, and they were going over the crossbar, and they were going over, and I'm running back like a fool, like an Egypt, trying to get back into the goal, running from outside the 18-yard box. And he said, "Look," he says, "they can't score." And then I says, "Hold on, Jack." I says, "Line them up again." So this time he lined them up in the halfway line, and I think there was about 7 or 8 went into the back of the net over my head. And he kind of said, "Okay," he says, you know what I'm telling you. You know what I'm telling you. You make up your mind where you want to stand, but make sure that you're out behind them when the ball's played over the top." So that was the message, and that's what he had. He had this great ability, Jack, to get the message across.
He absolutely loved you, Packie. I was just looking through your program there. I think it was the one at Celtic Park, the Packie Bonner story, and there's some lovely, emotional looking photos of you and Jack Charlton where you can just see when he's speaking to you that he's speaking with you with absolute love and respect as a player, and I love looking through those photographs. They're absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, no, that's the one. And like the story, the great story I have about that particular testimonial, I think probably some of the guys, most of the guys might have heard it. I'll tell it again anyway. I wanted to get a team over because, you know, to have a testimonial in Glasgow, the committee was saying, "Well, do we get an international team? Do we get another club team? Do I get Ireland over to play?" You know. And so Jack and all the boys agreed to come, and they were desperate to come. They were desperate to come over to play at Celtic Park. Some of them had never played and been around Celtic Park, and that was probably in their blood to come and play. So they were desperate, and they all turned up. But I had been asking them about a gift, you know, and the normal gift that would be going around at the time for testimonials and so on was a bit of crystal. You'd get a bit of crystal and you would pick it up on the dressing table afterwards, and some of them, I had loads of them and so on. But I wanted something a little bit different, and at the time, the Discman was out. It was just came on the market. You couldn't get it, and you could put the discs into it and so on and play music, but you couldn't get it. It sounds really stupid now.
I know.
But I got all the players one of these each and put their name on and so on. And then Jack, I asked Jack what would he like, and he said, "Oh, he says, give me a box of scotch. Give me a box of scotch." I got the box of scotch for him, but I had that on the side. But I wanted to give him one of these also. So at the end of the night, we were in Albion Hotel at the function. Came to giving out the gifts. So I called him. Right, he says, "Jack Charlton, bring the lads up." So Jack was right out of his seat, straight up to the stage, and the lads were following up behind. And I had the CD thing out on the top of the portable CD player, out the top of the box to give to the lads. And I gave Jack, and I went to hand it to him, and he stopped about 2 yards away from me, and he went, "What the fuck is that?" And I said, "That's your present, Jack." He said, "What the fuck am I going to do with a toaster?" A toaster. And I said, "Jack, it's not a fucking toaster, it's a CD player." "Fucking toaster," he says. So anyway, I eventually give it to him, and then give all the rest of it. And when he went back down to the table, then the boys were winding them up, saying that, "Listen, these CDs, Jack, cost 15 quid at a time." "Oh," he says, "fuck," he says. And then he wanted to sell the CD player to one of the boys.
Oh, jeez, yeah, that's a much. You thought of your present.
Oh yeah, so that was
brilliant.
But they all turned up, and it was brilliant. And to have them, and we had our team boys band, the senior band there that particular day too, with all the flags. And it was a great day.
It was a superb day out. I was over myself. It was absolutely excellent. Can I do a wee bit more about your Celtic career, 89 and the 90 cup final, when you eventually get your hands on another cup winners medal, 1-0 against Rangers, and of course our brilliant little Joe Miller with the winner. How did that day feel?
Yeah, Yeah, listen, anytime you beat Rangers for taking it, especially in a cup final, and especially at that time because Rangers were starting to build something that they had the big players coming in, the Butchers and the Woods and all of these guys coming in, and we were the lambs to slaughter as far as they were concerned. But then to go out in the cup final and beat them, and then of course Gary Stevens made the mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have had to throw in, but that was again Roy Aiken, quick thinking, being the leader,
absolutely
taking it on, and away we went, and we Joe then capitalising on it. But for the likes of Joe and Anton and those guys too, young guys. I was a little bit older at the time. I was 13 getting into a cup final, but these were a little bit younger. And for them to take on Rangers after they and beat them in a cup final, I think it was that one of them. The centenary year was fantastic. Probably the highlight of my career as far as Celtic was concerned at that point. But then when you beat Rangers that particular 1919.
Yeah, with all that money
89,
invested.
90.
Yeah, 89 and the 90.
We're talking about 1990. That was it.
Well, Anton actually told me to point out to you that you never went the right way for a penalty except once. And he still blames you for it.
And these guys on BBC keep reminding me about it all the time. And Richard Gordon and these Aberdeen guys, so I have to stand up and talk about other events. But no, I didn't go. Listen, I went the right way for Jim Bett's penalty.
Yeah, so you did.
I knew Jim Bett, but we didn't have analysis. We didn't know.
That's right. People didn't study the game.
Taking the penalty, and we really were going to put the penalty at that particular time. I knew where Jim Bett was putting it, and I just scraped my fingertips right down on the right hand side, but the rest of them just didn't have a clue. And I hadn't worked the plan out, to be honest. Anton, of course, missed the penalty, which was unfortunate.
Got it for
the penalty before that.
Yeah.
For my part, I think I was next up after Anton, so that wouldn't have been pretty.
And
pretty good to watch.
that was the next story. But you put it out there. You were next up. But do you remember Anton's penalty? Because Anton had an absolute cracking penalty.
I was absolutely. It was a great penalty, but I felt so sorry for him because anybody that misses a penalty, people remember it, but they don't remember Darius Dobchik missing a penalty.
Yeah.
Too much,
Well, to be fair on Anton, there's a lot of people in this road don't. You know what I mean? The bypass it. You know what I mean? Anton was an absolute brilliant servant from Celtic. He's a West Belfast role model. He's the most successful modern player to come out of West Belfast. So people absolutely adore Anton this end of the road, and it's just it's football.
Absolutely right. So I said it already in this interview that Anton, I have so much time for it.
Yeah, absolutely love him.
He came to Glasgow. He was very friendly with my sister in Glasgow, who lived in Glasgow at the time she was married, living over here, and he almost visited her on a daily basis. His family, his mum and dad, and the rest of the group. I went over to Belfast to a function one night, and Anton brought me to the house to visit him and brought me around the whole of Belfast and showed me around the whole place, sites that I didn't see. But he fitted in well with everybody, and he was a young boy out of Belfast to come and play for the Hoops, and it was huge in his life, and the way that he handled himself when he was at the club, what he did was brilliant also. And we were just talking the other night about the great times we had in and around. We were living in the south side. He stayed with one of my best friends since I was 10 years old, Carl Boyle, who's no longer with us. He died last year, and Anton lived with him and Charlie Christie for a while in his house. So that was how close we were in Glasgow at times. We don't talk to each other a lot now. We don't see each other enough. But as you get older, you probably reminisce a little bit more.
But that bond will always be there because that was just so unique what you did in that centenary year. You're just iconic. That's what we spoke about in the show, about the certain teams. You had your Lisbon Lions, you had your the Invincibles now, but the centenary team for me is heads above everything else. It was my era.
Yeah.
I loved everything about it.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm really not mistaken, I don't know, but I think looking back, and this is off memory, I didn't do any research into it, but I think that particular year it was 44 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had something like about 20 something goals against that particular year, which was incredible. We had a fantastic defensive record that year, you know, in Anthem and away. The other thing that particular year, what we did under Tommy Craig, probably more so than anything else, is that we came up with a strategy of how to press teams. Nowadays, you know, when you look at Liverpool and they're talking about this pressing game was always there. We had it with Ireland, with Jack pressing, you know, put them under pressure. But with Celtic that particular year, we were lucky. We went away to Sweden. Billy had to come back for Brian McClare's tribunal, and Tommy Craig spent about a week with us working on shadow and working and closing down the opposition. And we brought that strategy into the league that year. And we were probably the first team in Scotland to a point that did it well, and really did it well. And it was very simple. We had Tommy Burns on the left, Billy Stark on the right. Not the quickest players in the world.
Yeah.
But we're so intelligent, forcing the ball inside into the zone, into where Peter Grant and Paul McStay was. And we just then, like, they were like limpets, really catching on to people and winning the ball back. And then we had the ability up front to go and try and score a goal from that, but we didn't allow teams to capitalise on us, and the defensive record we had that year was, I think, quite extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm quite not speaking, tell you about all this, but see when you keep name dropping all these players again, I'm going wow to myself. It's just absolutely amazing. Declan's got a couple of wee questions to ask you on the 1990. We dealt with a penalty shootout. There was another incident where or was a sign in that year?
Yeah, just after the cup final, as you say, Rangers were going strength to strength in their money spending, and the news came out that Mo Johnson had signed for Rangers, and obviously you're a former teammate of him, and you thought he was going to re-sign, and just what was your opinion on that event happening?
Was it the Mo Johnson one?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't even want to talk about it. It was such a, you know, I think the way that it all happened with him, you know, signing or apparently signing with Celtic, and you know, maybe Celtic jumped the gun a little bit by coming out and announcing that, but the way then for him to sort of kind of almost turn his back on that and then go to Rangers, I just think for me it was sickening. I think it was a real blow to us too, because you know we had played with Mo. We won in that game that we won down in Paisley. Mo was part of it, and all of that. So for him to kind of almost turn his back on the club, on ourselves, and then go to Rangers, for me it was just a sickening blow. You know. The only heartbreak for us was that we weren't able to go really and use that as a spur to go and try and, you know, take Rangers on during that period. We did take them on, but we didn't stop them, and maybe that was down to the finances and the players that they were able to sign and so on, that we weren't capable of doing that. But where are they now? You know, that's the question.
Yeah, 100%, Packie. In 1990, unreal. We get that over as after the penalty shootout. You had your mind on other things, because we had qualified for the World Cup, first time in our history. Could you feel the atmosphere building in the country? Because I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that till the day God calls me.
No, listen, we're lucky. You're lucky. Maybe I'm lucky. I feel the younger generation weren't around at the time to just feel it, to experience it, to get the emotion. You know, I keep saying this to a lot of people. You know, people come up to me even to this day and they tell me where they were during the penalty shootout, and even during that period of you know, 10, you could say maybe 10 weeks. Of the thing, just it was like a juggernaut, just keep going and getting better as the weeks were going on, you know. And do you remember exactly where they were in the penalty shootout? Do you remember who they were? What do you remember? Who was around about them? Some of them people are no longer with us, and emotion is an incredible thing. If you emotionally attach to something, and the effect that had, and I can only describe in that manner. And I remember I was out in Italy. I wasn't here in Ireland, but I get the feeling that if you're attached to something so strongly, that stays with you for the rest of your time. I've got a beautiful small piece of video of a gentleman. He was a political reporter actually, and people might remember it. And was on RTA.
Right.
Big heavy guy he was, and there was a European summit on at the time, and they stopped it to watch the penalty shootout. And it's a lovely piece because he's on the side on his own, but the tears are running down his face.
I watched it today, Packie. Yeah.
Did you watch?
Yeah,
oh,
I watched it
incredible,
today.
you know, and just that emotion in that man's face tells me everything that you need to know about how effective that had on people. Because this guy would be a hard-nosed reporter, you know, he wouldn't have been in that situation too often.
There you go. My father cried when you saved the penalty. So it's
and it was down to probably, you know,
amazing.
most people be, you know, I don't know, some people maybe when their child is born, or maybe something like that, or some remarkable thing happens in your life that you get emotion overtakes you and you cry or whatever. But this particular thing was quite incredible, and it was I think it was a build up over the weeks too, you know, because everybody was enjoying themselves and all that then, and then just everything stood still for that almost whatever took 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was the homes getting decorated. It was people starting to fly the national flag. It was just done everywhere. It was just.
Somebody said to me, you know, that it kind of legalized the shamrock and all of those things that maybe we wore at St. Patrick's Day or something out there. You know what I mean? It almost felt that you had to be wearing it all the time, you know.
And especially for us in Belfast, because we were still in the troubles, like it was still 4 more years of the madness in front of us. But in 1990, when we all got together, it was, you know what I mean, it was an expression of your Irishness that we weren't ever able to express. And it just all came out. I always remember that year I went to Clonard Novena. I'm not too sure if you're aware of the do Novena every year up there.
Yeah, I know all about it.
Yeah, and I went the Novena every day. I'm not the best mass goer, and I was sort of praying for Ireland, you know, come on, really being overburdening God and asking to win the thing, like, you know, but shouldn't have went that far. But just looking around the chapel and just seeing all the Ireland shirts, it just totally blew me away. Then I had to laugh. The priest came out and they had all Ireland shirts on. It was just outstanding, and it just brought the whole community together, and it's just a time I'll never forget in my life.
Yeah, it was. It kind of, you know, we had the taste of it probably in '88 with the European Championships, but it was nothing like 1990 when we came back, you know. And when you come back and you see, and you know, I remember being on the plane with the guys with a few drinks and there's no doubt, and that, celebrating as you do, and that. But when the pilot then deviated the plane and took us over the top of Dublin, I think he took us off route and kind of showed us the crowd.
Wow.
It was frightening, to be honest. You know, it was incredible. And then I had to go back to Donegal a couple of days. I went back to Glasgow because Melissa had just been born when I left. So by the time I came back, she was almost a couple of months old, you know. And I wanted to go back to see her. And then we went back to Donegal. We flew to and they carried an airport, and that was crazy too. That was a special thing for me because it was. For me, it wasn't really the rest of the gang because they had all gone off to their own families, but this was Donegal, this was personal.
Yeah, brilliant. Declan's just in awe, just listening here. He's a couple of questions about Italian 90, if you don't mind jumping in and just getting a wee heads up.
Just the first game against England, because that's probably the first Italian 90, the first game of Italian 90 Ireland played against England. It's the first clip I watched of you giving a big Gaelic punt up the pitch. And us scoring from
Grain in the teeth.
just an absolutely amazing goal out there. You can basically say, call it, that's your assist.
That's my assist, yeah. Well, but there is listen, I don't know whether I'm repeating myself and people have heard these stories before, but I kind of remember, I think it was the one against Holland you're maybe talking about, when the ball, and there's a story around that one. I think it was the goal that Niall Quinn scored, wasn't it? And that where the ball was being played back to me by Mick McCarthy a few times, and I think it came back to me about the third time, and I said, Mick, fuck off up the pitch, and that's what exactly I was saying to Mick, but everybody misunderstood it from me G'ing the team up.
Right.
So I almost said to Mick, fuck up the pitch. And the camera caught my expression, and then I kicked the ball out, and I had more adrenaline probably, and I overkicked it a wee bit, and it sort of kind of put the Dutch under a bit of pressure, and there was a bad header. The ball went to Niall Quinn, who scored against Van Brooklyn, who was in the Dutch goal. But that was the true story around that. I was telling Mick McCarthy to fuck off rather than team up. And I remember
I'll never look at that footage
later
again.
on, years and years later, I was doing a thing for Spina Bifida, which is one of the charity that I kind of support, and one of the young girls in a wheelchair said, "Oh," she says, "I've got a photograph up on the wall of you, G, and the team up, So I had to kind of tell her the real story about it without deflating her.
So there's a couple of different stories now about this, but we've got the real one this evening. Brilliant. Yeah, and also on that, one of the things that you probably, one of the highlights of your life was meeting the Pope, and the Pope knowing who you were.
Sorry, you've gone again.
Sorry. I'm saying, hello? Yeah, you got to meet the Pope in the Vatican. Jeez, that must have been an amazing party.
Well, listen, as we all know, when you're a Catholic and you don't get that opportunity too often, but it was great because it was kind of out of the blue, to be honest. When but Nick Byrne, who was our physio, and he was a big Catholic and big Fianna Fáil supporter at the time and all that, and he it was him that sort of instigated it because he had said to Jack about going to meet the Pope, and before we even actually left for the tournament, and Jack thinking that we'd never get to the final in Rome, then he said, "Okay, if we get to Rome, we'll get you to see the Pope." So of course we get to Rome in the quarter final, and as soon as we qualify in the dressing room, Nick Byrne says, "Jack, you need to bring us to see the Pope. You need to bring us to see the Pope. You promised." So Jack now had been under pressure, and that, but he had contacted. We had a priest who travelled with us, Father Liam. He was from Limerick, and a lovely man actually. And Jack says, "Father Liam, you need to go and get this organised." So he went away and seen about the Cardinals and got a few of the Irish ones who was out in Rome and that, and eventually we got ourselves in to see the Pope. But it was a brilliant day, and we seen places inside the Vatican that I don't think many lay people would see. Brought us into rooms that was quite incredible. The paintings on the walls of Michelangelo, and just it was a brilliant day, and it affected. I think it affected us all in a way that probably it wouldn't affect maybe other normal people, because we were Irish, we were there, we were in the quarter-final, so the pressure was off, and now we got icing on the cake to go.
Yeah, the two faces that stood out.
To see the Pope, which was quite incredible.
The two faces stood out was yourself and Earl Charlie. The two of you were just in awe of seeing the Pope. Yeah.
Little Charlie's fantastic.
Still
And
going. Yeah.
just to kind of describe little Charlie. Charlie's 5 foot tall, and he was an ex-referee actually.
That's right. Yeah.
They used to wear a little hat and that. But Jack loved Charlie O'Leary. He was our kit man. He used to hop around those big hampers, all himself and Mick Byrne. I don't know how he did it, but Charlie's still alive. He's 96 years old.
I've seen a photograph of him. Yeah.
Pretty recently there.
Yeah.
And he has an unbelievable mind. Brilliant. And he still goes out to the AUL in the complex there. He was on a committee. He's 96 years old. I think his son brings him out to just keep him active. But
Brilliant.
he remembers absolutely everything. And Jack, he was a bit confident to Jack because the kit room is a critical place in football. People, players congregate in the kit room. They share jokes. They have a cup of tea. maybe the physio room also is another place where maybe people might hang around a little bit too at times. But that's when you get to know people, and that's when you get to hear, maybe how they're feeling and so on and so forth. And what Jack used to do with Charlie would take him then for a little walk. Maybe you'd see them walking down the road, maybe the day before a game or something like that. And what Jack was doing was kind of trying to find out from Charlie how the guys were feeling, how they were. And Charlie was his confidant from that point of view. Not that he would tell stories against the boys and that, but he was just giving Jack a feel for, well, Packie brother, he's okay, he's in great shape, he's feeling great, or Kevin Moore, or maybe somebody else he looks a little bit nervous or something out there, and then Jack would come and speak to them, in a different way, and that. So that's how important Charlie was to the whole group. There's a great story about Charlie during that World Cup. Being 5 foot tall himself, and Mick Byrne, they did all the work, and then we would go up to bed in the afternoon to get a rest or so on, especially in the day of the game. And Charlie was neither of them could swim, by the way. Charlie, I think, fell into the Liffey when he was a young boy and nearly drowned, so that was his excuse. But Mick Byrne couldn't really swim. He had a few strokes, and then he would hold on to the side of the pool. But as the weeks was going on, Charlie was getting a little bit more braver, so he would go into the shallow end, and he would walk around and kind of let on. He was kind of swimming, but the water was. So this particular day, when we were all in our bed, and it was later on in the tournament, one of the English photographers came round about the pool, and he stripped off and he went to go for a swim, and he says to Charlie, he says, excuse me, he says, how deep is it in there? And Charlie says, oh, well, it's up to there, and then he pointed to his neck. It's up to my neck. So your man dives in and cuts all his face, and wee Charlie walks out, and he's only 5 foot tall. So there you are, but Charlie had a great sense of humour too.
He was brilliant. He was one of he always had that smile on his face no matter what through his whole time in Ireland. And hard to believe, Packie, that's 30 years ago.
It's incredible how times moved on, And when I was thinking back on that, Jack was 85 recently, and he was only 55, 5 years younger than me when he was a manager as a team in the World Cup.
No.
And I don't feel old in any way, and we always felt that Jack was an older man,
Yeah.
But he was only 55. He was only
That's right,
55.
when he first came in.
The height of his powers.
Unreal. Don't mind bringing back your Celtic career. We'll not hold you too much longer. We'll just whiz through the final bits here. Billy's gone. Liam Brady comes in. The Liam Brady era must have been disappointing knowing Liam, and our first Irish manager, really, of the modern era. It was very disappointing, and I was disappointed for Liam personally myself.
I think it was disappointing for everybody because he was Irish, and having an Irishman now. I think, was it Willie Maley, maybe a way back? I don't know, I think he might have been Irish, but certainly born in Ireland anyway. But Liam, and I knew Liam well. He was done my contract. He was doing a bit of work with Fintan Drury after he was at West Ham, and he was kind of doing a bit of work with Drury Communications, who were my kind of. I never really had an agent over the years, but they were kind of a marketing promotion company who ran the pool at the time, so they wanted to do something afterwards with myself personally, so they took over. So they negotiated my contract. Liam would have been working with him, so Liam actually negotiated my contract with Billy, and then I remember he came over and spoke in my testimonial dinner, and it was from that juncture that I knew that Liam was interested, because he had said to me, he said, listen, I'd love to manage this club sometime if I ever got the opportunity, And when the job came up, I was made a mention to who was it again? I mentioned to one of
Kelly's and McGinn's.
I'm trying to think of his name, Brian
Dempsey.
Oh, it'll come back to me anyway. But he was kind of close to the directors. He wasn't on the board, but he was during that time of Fergus McCann, and he was very much around that part too. But before that, he was very much connected with the board. And I had mentioned to him, I said, listen, I'm just putting this name to you. If may go nowhere, but Liam Brady would be very interested. And then suddenly Brady ends up the manager, and
Right.
whether I had something to do with it, I don't know, but I put the name there.
The recommendation was
So
put
then when he
in,
came in as manager, it was like as if I didn't know. It was like as if, Liam wasn't a great communicator, Liam. He was a great player, brilliant player. I remember him saying to me once, he said, listen, if you want to go abroad, you need to be a loner. You need to be able to handle your time on your own and so on. And that's kind of unbelievably what Liam's personality was a little bit. He wasn't a communicator and nipping Billy and those guys. Maybe a little bit like Davy Hay, but he was unfortunate. He needed success. He needed to win something. And maybe the signings also. He brought in Tony and brought in Jack Gillespie, who was always injured.
Yeah,
so maybe the signings didn't work.
Slater. Yeah.
I was desperately disappointed that it didn't work out for him, because I wanted him to be a success, and I wanted an Irishman to be a success coming to Scotland, coming to Celtic Football Club at that time, and it didn't happen for him, which was
it's a pity. But of course, October '93, seen him gone. You seen another manager come in. Declan wants to take you up on Lou McCarry. He came in October '93.
Yeah, I don't think you had the best relationship with Lou, because he said after a game that I think that's you done at Celtic. Just hardly sad to hear it come from a manager to say that's you done at the club which you've been at for the majority of your life.
Yeah, well, listen, Lou was a unique character. I've got to say, I've never worked with a manager or seen a manager how to work in that way, the way that he kind of worked, which was probably a little bit, you could call it very traditional, very much like the old ways, and we were desperate for somebody to come in and give us something new. We needed a change. We needed some new players. We needed better players than we had, and some of the signings that he made, to be fair, they weren't up to scratch as far as I was concerned. And Lou was a difficult character to work with, and so on. And then the people that he put in around about him didn't help that matter also. But I think the biggest disappointment for me was probably the way that he let me go. I was up at playing a match away in Dundee, and I came back down in the bus, and he told me outside the bus that he was giving me a free, and that was the end of it. I walked in, I think, probably the next day, and picked up my boots, and I was gone, and I just felt that there was a better way of doing that.
A bit of respect, you should have had the respect.
When you were at the club for so long, and that, the season was over, I know, but he could have told me before that, and he could have told me at the point where I could have said, cheerio to the fans or whatever,
Yeah, you deserved it.
Yeah. So that was my big disappointment. But listen, I met Lou afterwards. He was working with Brian Cale with the Irish team and doing some scouting, and I was working with them. So, and I always feel that people have to do things. They do it in a certain way. I don't like holding too many grudges against people. To be perfectly honest, And,
I know you're still in the game, and you're still making these along the lane.
And we all have to, when we're in positions of responsibility, and we have to make decisions too, and sometimes you make them the right way and the wrong way, and that, but you can't do these things.
Don't worry, I look after these two on the list, so it's Mo Johnson, Lou McCarry. Just leave that with me, Packie. I'll sort that.
You sort it out.
Yeah, of course, Lou's gone. It's June '94. He's out the door. July 1994. I've never seen a buzz come for such a manager to walk in the door. When we got our Tommy back, that was just unreal to get Tommy Burns back in the Celtic. All those years of instability, infighting with the board. Tommy comes in and just says to the fans, listen, I want to put a smile on this club's face. I want to put a smile back in the players, a smile back in the fans coming back. It must have been such a lift for yourself coming back in and bringing you back in as player coach and giving you a new contract.
Yeah, well, again, it's documented. I was going to go to Kilmarnock. I'd been freed. Shea Given was freed also by Lou.
Yeah,
I was going to go down to Kilmarnock and negotiate. I went down and met Tommy and Billy Stark and the Bob Fleeting, who was the chairman at the time, and one of the older directors who was the money guy. And then we sat down, we had a lovely conversation, and I had agreed 2 years to come down. I was desperate to go and work with Tommy and Billy Stark. And I had planned, I said to Tom, I said, listen, if I sign, I want to try and sign Shay Given also, because Shay is a young prodigy, great goalkeeper. I can't believe they've released him. And if I could bring him down, and I could work with him and develop him, and that. So that was the plan of action. But then it all changed in the World, when I was at the World Cup, and I got a phone call from Tommy to say he was coming back to Celtic Park, and he asked me back, and I couldn't but come back, to be honest, because I was coming back in then, all as a player, but also as a kind of a coach, even though the biggest priority was to play, but I had kind of responsibility for doing a bit of coaching and that too, and that was the start of maybe my coaching career. So Tommy gave me that, and then just for him, he was a big friend, the family, both our families, and I kind of probably got to know Billy Stark a lot more, even though I played with Billy during the centenary year and he was there for a number of years. I got to know Billy really, really closely during that period too, and we're very, very good friends now. And and Tommy's no longer with us, as we all know, but we kind of talk about him every so often.
You can't help but talk about him.
Chat, and when we have a cup of coffee and sit down and talk about football, because that's what we talk about. We talk about the good times and talk about things that. And Tommy was unique. Tommy was absolutely unique. He was young manager. He lacked experience in certain matters, but he had the passion. He had that passion for Celtic. And then when the first year was going to be difficult because we were at Hampden. Really difficult. Fergus McCann was in, and that was another big story. And Fergus and Tommy's, I suppose, relationship wasn't quite the best at times, and that because Tommy was real passion to get the club moving and get the club moving from a football perspective. But Fergus had his other strategy on the business and getting that sorted out and getting the stadium.
Did you realise that at the time?
And sometimes, those two things don't go together. It's nice if it did all go together at one time, but when you're trying to do different things, it's not easy. So that was a bit frayed at times, I must admit. But Tommy just, and then when he brought in the Canio and Van Huygen, Tom and George Cadet, oh my God! And that particular season, I think, even though defensively, there was times in games where we had 6 defenders and four attackers when they all played, and they had 4 walking back and 6 trying to defend against plus a goalkeeper against the opposition. But when they were going forward and played, they were fantastic, absolutely.
So they were a beauty to watch.
And get you out of your seat. Football is an emotional game. I suppose it's there to entertain the fans. And I think that particular year, the fans were entertained more than anything else.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It was wonderful. It's just a pity we couldn't win the league. That would have made Tommy in. But we got the cup the year after. But
that's what it was going to come to.
I think once go through a full season and probably a couple of draws and maybe I can't remember right, but we weren't that far behind Rangers. We just got pipped in the end. But then it was sad to see Tommy go. Also, that was really disappointing. That was
that hurt us all.
Because, to leave in the circumstances, he lost the League Cup and then the Scottish Cup, and but he was there. He was trying to build something, but it was really difficult.
Yeah, I just want to bring you back to your final appearance at Celtic. Was funny enough the Scottish League Cup final, 1985. It was your final appearance then. What was the pressure, the build up? Because you were doing it, you were trying to get the monkey off the back. We hadn't taken a trophy since the 1990. The pressure was on. It was on Tommy. You being one of the senior players. What was the pressure like to try and go into that game? Because we'd lost Brian O'Neill and I think Tony Mowbray on the day.
Yeah. No, listen, the pressure was on, even though we were playing Airdrie in the final. In normal circumstances, most people would say, you beat them, no problem. But because there's so much pressure on of not winning something, especially with for Tommy, I think we all felt it, definitely felt it. And we had gone over to Italy, over to Lake Como, which I think was the only place that Tommy could get that was in the budget, and we couldn't even get a training pitch to do anything. But he wanted to get us away just to create the team spirit,
Right.
and just unite us a wee bit just before that thing. And I think it worked, because we had a good group, and but we needed the goal. Van Hoydonk scored the goal. For me personally, it was huge. I was out of the team for a while in the season. Gordon Marshall, Tommy put him in because the game was changing. I was getting older, and I was coaching too, so I had no problem with it at all. So I was contributing. But I got back into the team then after that, and then I had to run in for the league and the cup, and to play. And I was 35 years old at that point in time, and to get in and be part of that team, to everybody looks back at the emotion of Peter Grant's and Tommy's faces and all, but we were all emotional. And then knowing that maybe it would be probably the last time I might win a medal. So that was unique, and it's a nice way to go out, isn't it?
Oh, it was a beautiful way to go out.
Yeah.
It was a great day. It was the pressure lift off. We got the trophy. It was just, you knew something was building, but as you well know, a couple of years later, Tommy was out of the job. It was hard to take. Declan has a quick wee question on the World Cup.
Yeah, just off when you retired, and obviously you go about, some coaching was thinking about the Reading with Tommy, but then you joined Mick with the setup at the World Cup in 2002. Just probably you get this loads of times. Do you have any memories of what it was like in Saipan when all that drama was going on?
I knew you were going to ask that question. How did I know that one? No, listen, I memories. Of course I have memories of it, and it was. First thing is, we had qualified for a World Cup. It was '94, qualified before. Suddenly, 8 years later, we were back in the World Cup, and it should have been a thing of beauty, and it should have been brilliant for a new group of young supporters that didn't remember. When you think about it, come back, somebody maybe that was around the age of 2 and 3, 4 years old wouldn't have remembered 1994 too much. Suddenly now they were 12, 11, 12. I remember the first effect a World Cup had on me. I was 10 years old, and it was 1970 World Cup, that great Brazil team beating Italy, and that's what it should have been, a real positive effect on it. In fact, it was the opposite because of Saipan. And Saipan thing probably shouldn't have happened, and I wish it didn't happen, and I wish that both Mick and Roy hadn't have to go through that experience, because it was a nightmare for both of them, and for the rest of us that was wrapped around the periphery. Wasn't a good time, and I felt sorry for them. I've always felt, and I'll say it to this day, and I'll say it to, I'll keep saying to Roy, that there was something up with Roy even before we left home.
I thought that as well.
There was definitely something affecting him, whether that was personal, or whether he didn't want to go too early, or whether he didn't want to be there, and maybe stuff in Man United. I don't know what it was, but certainly he was not in the best of form leaving Ireland. And then going probably at the Saipan, where the pitch was definitely not a good pitch, but we were going there for R&R. It was there to relax. Maybe it would have been better if Roy didn't have to go there, and maybe joined up with us
at another time
in Japan. That would have been. Japan was fantastic. Japan was really sensational. The training facilities, the atmosphere, everything about it. But that was hanging over us, this whole thing with Roy, even though it was, as I said, it should have been wonderful. We didn't respond to it. The lads responded.
It's another great World Cup. Yeah.
Kick away from being in the quarter final, which again people tend to forget that. He could have been there. Doing exactly what we did in 1990.
And I thought we were even better in Spain that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we would have had
Spanish
Korea.
team, a very good Spanish team. Much better. It just didn't work out in the penalty shootout.
I know.
And now when you look back on it all, but I wish that hadn't happened. That the Roy thing hadn't happened with Mick, because Roy was a sensational player.
He was
I suppose
indeed.
during that qualification too, that he was probably one of the reasons why we had won some games. And that game against Holland in Dublin,
Yeah,
where
wasn't
he
he
did
outstanding that
overmark
day?
up in the air early on in the game. that in itself was special, and it helped us win the game. There's no question. But he didn't go to Iran with us in the replay, which was a
Yeah.
game disappointment.
God, that was a strange game, that one, wasn't it, Packie, Iran?
I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
it. When you went to Iran, the atmosphere was incredible. We went to the ground probably 2 hours before the game, and we got absolutely hammered with bottles. There was bottles with ice in them.
You're right.
And then, thrown onto the pitch. We had to go in underneath the stand to get away from it all. Then we did the warm up. The crowd they were in there for about 2 hours before the game. The place was full.
Yeah.
When we were in the dugout, they were hammering us with missiles. Then just before the game took off, they had that prayer.
That's right, the Quran, the read that from the Quran.
We were very lucky that we didn't lose a goal early in that game.
Yeah.
And I think it was the last 10 minutes or something that they scored, or we would have hold out. And that, but we got away with it. But
Yeah.
I've never seen anything from the stadium back to the airport, because we were directly back and flew out. There was glass everywhere, and
Yeah.
apparently what the natives do a little bit is that they rebel when things don't go their way, and apparently it was all the windows of the buses that take them to the games that they had kicked out, but there was glass everywhere.
Oh,
So it was
yeah,
quite
there
an
you go.
intimidating place, and I think the disappointment, I suppose, for Mick and for most of us, that Roy wasn't there, our captain, on the night, but the lads held up, and we got through, and as I say, it should have been a wonderful time. It should have been a wonderful period
should have been.
for all that goes with it.
Yeah.
And it just overshadows it. To this day, it overshadows probably that World Cup.
Yeah. Here, you've come in and you've given up near 2 hours of your time here, Packie. You have been absolutely brilliant. The people are just loving it out there. John Fallon's been in touch to say, send Packie my best.
Good on him.
Another great goalkeeper, Paul Byrne, has been in touch to say...
Paul Byrne, I know Paul, good lad, yeah.
Yes, he says to tell
Played
Packie to
with
say
us,
hello.
with us, and I think played a lot down in the north, didn't he?
Yes, he played up in Bangor. He played for Bangor in the Irish League. Here, see, when you were out at the World Cup, the Mexico game, because I remember the Mexico game behind the goal, had a big jet red and white Cliftonville flag. It said Cliftonville, West Belfast on it. Did you ever remember it from the World Cup?
No, I don't.
No.
Do you know something I meant to say tonight? And everybody will remember the game down in Northern Ireland when we had qualified with Al McLaughlin scored.
Yes.
That particular night. That
Oh,
was
yeah.
an incredible, great, brilliant night for us.
Yeah.
But I remember going into that atmosphere in Windsor Park, and it was quite an intimidating atmosphere. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But and I remember a ball going behind the goal early on in the game, and I went to go, and the ball boys behind the goal, one of them got it, and there was two young ball boys, and they came on and said, "We're supporting you, and I felt quite happy then. But one of them was Jerry Crossley.
Jared. Jesus. I didn't know Jared was a ball
Jerry
boy that
Crossley,
night.
and the other lad was a red-haired lad, and I don't have his name, and I apologise to him. I was trying to think of his name today, and nobody had his phone to get it. But both of them, obviously, Jerry came over, and he came over. Both of them came over on trial to Celtic, and Jerry was signed, and he was a brilliant little player.
Jerry
He was a brilliant little player. He was 16 years old, maybe 15, 16 when he came over, and he was actually even training with the first team for a period. And
That's right.
and I always remember that particular day in Belfast, Windsor Park, playing that big game, and these two young boys behind the goal. They were the ball boys, and they ended up then coming over to Celtic Park.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was trying to avoid that subject, because sometimes you can get into these and start talking about politics and stuff. I try to keep it all positive.
The reason why I brought it up is just because of Jerry and them,
No. I'm glad you brought it up, but it's the same. I didn't want to bring it up with you and make you say stuff about politics and things like that. Don't go down that road. But you've given us up 2 hours of your time, Packie, and we can't thank you enough. You're a person that came from Burtonport and Donegal. You started off your Celtic career when we didn't wear gloves, Then you had to go through a rule change in 1992 when they expected you to play football. You've ended up, you walked out of the club 19 years, 1978 to 1997. Packie, that's a long time. Did you know that you're the second longest serving player in our history?
No, I didn't actually.
Yeah.
I knew I was up there appearance-wise with about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, you're number 5.
I was up there, Billy, and all of that type of stuff. But I didn't know it was the second longest. Who was the longest?
Alec McNair, he's on 21 years.
Right.
You were 19 in behind him. And I think Billy done 18. We were making this up today, and we were trying to get all the facts and figures together. But you're number 2 on the list. Something you should be extremely proud of.
I am proud of it,
yeah.
and I must say to everybody before we go is that the club is unique. I went over there as a young boy. They looked after me. People like Sean Fallon we talked about earlier, and people after me, Lee Mawkins and Jimmy Steeles and Billy, John Clark and Davey and all of the guys, all of the people. There was a lovely man who used to be up on the second floor in match day. They were part-time people used to come in. A guy called John Lynch, and John was just a lovely. He had a smile on his face, and he always knew. And we became good friends because every day we would chat when he was there. And he died just a couple of months ago, and John used to send me a Christmas card every year, and I would send a Christmas card back to him. And it was lovely to have that connection with those type of people, in the background. People that other people don't know, but that's what made up the family of Celtic and, the fans. And what I used to love coming out and meeting people outside that was maybe from home, and people who would come over. And there was a group of people who used to come over and back a lot in those days. It became fashionable to come over and back later on when things were going really well. But in those early days, when travel was difficult, and they would come over and back, and I used to meet them outside. There was no players' lounge, or there was no other place you could meet them except outside and have a chat. And from that perspective, my uncle John, who's no longer with us, but I lived with him when I went to Glasgow, and he always said to me that Celtic Football Club give the Irish and give him and people like him a place where they could go and almost feel equal to everybody else. And that to me was one of the big reasons why. And I think those things from Celtic Football Club perspective needs to be very much up in the top of the strategy when they're talking about the future. Money is money. Fine, we need money to survive. We need all of those type of things to get the best players. But the traditions of the club must remain strong for everybody concerned.
Oh, here. The making my hairs in my arm just stand up there with what you're saying. Declan just wants to ask you a quick wee question for you.
Just one more question. Obviously, this season is the most important season in our club's history. And just with you being the pundit now, how do you think next season's going to go? Obviously, there's a lot of changes in Scottish football with the whole coronavirus stuff, but do you think we'll get 10 in a row?
Well, listen, there would be a unique achievement, and to get 9 is fantastic. But to get the 10 would be something that I think we all would love. And I think we will, because listen, I think they have the best players. They have a manager who has kept the traditions of the club's going strong, and he was brilliant to be able to step in there when Brendan left and just keep the momentum. And he kind of knew the club, and that was a good, wise choice. And I think the group of players he has, I can't see any other team touching them over a period of a season. And I don't know if they're going to be able to buy anybody in. They might need a centre half and so on for cover, but I think they're strong enough now throughout the team to up it. I can't see Rangers going and spending big money or any of the teams, and I can't see them being able to put up a challenge anyway this moment in time. So I think the 10 in a row is in the bag, guys. And,
brilliant.
But I think you still have to work to achieve it, and that's always the case with Celtic. You've got to put the hard graft in, but they're definitely capable, much more capable than anybody else.
Brilliant, Packie. You're just preaching everything that we want to hear. Packie, once again, I can't thank you enough for coming on and giving up your precious time. We wish you all the best as your technical advisor job to UEFA nowadays. We also, all the Celtic family here, Want to wish you a big happy 60th birthday, which you had during lockdown. I hope you get a chance to go out and celebrate it like every Irishman should celebrate a major birthday. And we wish you health, love and happiness to you and all your family in the future.
Pleasure. Same to you guys, and keep supporting the club. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail,
Hail,
Packie.
Packie.
Hail, hail.